you being at your higher stuff or whatever. So the same thing is as far as like what's taking place in the cosmos is bringing that energy here when it comes to that aspect of it. So the, you know, so that's why I was saying, like, as far as like, you know, the gematria body is basically an encryption over the body that is basically being controlled by electronic devices and things of that nature. But we breaking out of that spell right now, which is what we.
But also, that also tie into the numbers in your life that become prominent importance for you to see where you're going.
Okay.
Because the gematria is just translating to what the numbers you reading the binary code now.
Facts.
And now when you tell them what the gematria mean in translated form, you reading the streamers like them people sitting behind the keyboard on the Matrix. So your perception is being fine-tuned in order for you to be able to explain to them what it is they're looking at.
Okay. RG, did you add on to that? I stepped off a second. Or are you good? Or
me personally, when I think of like calling on the ancestors and things of that nature, like I always
selves, ancestors versus moving in the future, future selves, like calling on our future selves. Yeah. Okay.
I know there's a difference between our physical avatar and then who we really are, which is an accumulation of dark energy and ether energy consciousness. And when we call on specific ancestors, I believe we have to be very careful because, you know, we had ancestors that operated on a very high frequency. We had ancestors that operated on a very low frequency. So, you know, it's always, you know, very beneficial to do very diligent research on who is who down the line in your bloodline.
If you don't correct the ancestry that come to you on a frequency, let's say it's alcoholism. You got an alcoholic uncle that want to live vicarious through you, so he want to influence you to rock his frequency by consuming mass amounts of alcohol. Then he can take control. But it's not really him, it's the frequency that's trying to be in control of the life. And when you block down the frequency, you activate the frequencies that's more to your liking to run interference on your behalf called spiritual protection. It's part of shadow work.
So I asked a question. I asked this question. One person I asked this question to before. It was either Seven Beaumont or Billy Carson. I forget. And I'm gonna like remix the question a little bit. But basically, we're in this era of spirituality where we're taught to be positive and say affirmations and say what you want out loud and repeat it as many times as you want. From experience in life, and I heard Seven talk about this the other day on his show also. From my experience, sometimes when I'm the loudest about my mantras or I'm the loudest about what I want, I don't get sabotaged from people in the outside world. It almost seems like something inside me sabotages things. So it seems like the louder I get, I done gave out all the intel. Now some motherfucker inside of me knows how to counter it and do what they got to do for, like, let's say you want to get a new car and you keep saying you want to get a new car, right? You're about to get you say it out loud. Then all of a sudden the weirdest shit in the world happens so that you don't get this new car. But sometimes a person is quiet about it. He moves in silence and he gets the car like that. I want to ask you, is there something, and I heard Seven talked about frequencies wanting to stay alive. So let's say you have a frequency of misery or whatever that exists within you. That frequency wants to stay alive. So when you want to be happy, that frequency will rebel and something will pop up in your life out of nowhere. And that could be that frequency trying to stay alive. How do we communicate with these frequencies that may exist within us and let them know, hey, listen, I'm going to the next level. You ain't got to ruin shit. You ain't got to do no wild shit. You don't fuck shit up. But I am going to get to this next level. I'm going to save a little room for you to exist. But I'm going to get here. Like, how do we do that? How do we just, just be positive, but to being realistic and saying, listen, this frequency is going to fight back if I try to do this. How can I communicate it and form a truce with it, like nations form truces with each other so that they can live in peace and harmony with each other?
Sometimes conquest is necessary.
Say that again?
Sometimes conquest is necessary.
Explain, Rod. Explain.
There's usually an example of sometimes two nations with opposing views can make a treaty of agreement. Sometimes they can't. And when that happens, it might be required for one of them to conquer the other one in order for them to even find a semblance of peace between the two. Conquest becomes necessary. When you're looking at the energies and you're doing the shadow work, the frequency that you exercise the most is going to be the strongest. And so when that energy rebel, if you don't have sufficient practice on the new energy, the energy that you choose, the energy that you used to is going to come back up and interfere with your process. This is what you're talking about. If we're looking at everything from 3D matrix, and we believe that the 3D is the answer. But the answer comes in spiritually, translates mentally, and plays out physically. So when you face with those energies, that means that you haven't built up the energies required to meet your task because you haven't done enough due diligence to build that energy momentum up.
Right. Gotcha.
Interesting.
Well, based on my own observation, when it comes, I call it, keeping your cup full to where you're not leaking energy. So sometimes when you say certain things that you're going to do, sometimes it doesn't like materialize in physical form. So sometimes it's just best to keep certain things to yourself in order to harness that energy, because it helps you tap into your telepathic abilities to where you're able to manipulate certain timelines and time dilation in order to, make certain things, manifest or whatever. Right. So like I said, I call it, leaking energy. When I say I'm going to do something, I don't tell a lot of people. I just kind of keep it mental, and I just conserve the information, and then I just, let it materialize.
Gotcha.
That's the point in ceremonial magic as well.
Yep, you can telekinetically block somebody's plans, somebody's potential manifestation. There were instances where people were surrounding somebody that was like in an emergency situation, and they were like critically injured, and they did like a seance, like over 100 people like did a seance over somebody who was like injured, and that person was healed within a matter of like a few minutes. And the ancients called that energy the power of the Ka, the Ka, and that proves that we have those metaphysical, those supernatural powers. Like everything that manifests itself in the physical has to start out mental. It has to start out in the fourth dimension. And just like Bidel said, as far as like your plans, what you have going, you don't want to say that around too many people, because these days, you never know who's watching, you never know who's listening. At the end of the day, you never know somebody's thought process, what somebody's true intentions are. So a lot of times people say their plans out in public, and it gets telekinetically knocked down,
Right. Yeah, because non-corporeal demons can block manifestation frequencies.
Oh yeah. Remember, the most common form of cursed magic in the world, the most common form is called ill wish. When you wishing that somebody tell you they're finna do something great, and you don't wish them well, you wish that they don't succeed. You projecting the energy And the people around you, if they the ones that's projecting that energy, they can trigger your self-sabotage because you don't want that person to benefit from your prosperity. Controlling your energy. Right. And that's why I say when you do the magic circle, you are symbolically putting yourself in the position of creator. Right. And until you see your creation, the creation is being created. Or else you would have already seen it if it was past tense created. But while all these things are in the process of creation, you can't see them until they're created. It's process. And the energy that you put in the development of it, processing energetically, the faster you can cause the physical effect of bringing that into your reality that they call manifestation. It's the focusing of the energy, the control of the energy, and the understanding of the energy is required to do either of the two. Once you understand how the energy works, and then you can capitalize greatness. That's why you go back to the platonic solids. They all got something in common with the desire to put it back into the creation flower in order for it to manifest into the 3D. Right? It's frequency.
Indeed. So I started out an amazing show so far. Shout out to everybody in the chat once again. Share this chat with a loved one. We got about 3,700 people in the chat right now. Amazing show so far. I started out talking about Bobby Hemmett, giving respect to Bobby Hemmett and saying how he said a new species was going to be formed from everything that transpired in America. So if you think about America and you think about who we call the African-American man, and so much talk is always focused on them when the Olympics come around and we see the Black Americans dominate the Olympics, track and field, basketball, all types of different sports. I want to know if we call the Caucasian the 6 ether beings and we have all these names and they don't have a certain amount of melanin, right? And certain people look at African Americans as not being pure Black people because our complexion was lighting up throughout the mixing process. Why is it that it seems, or why is it that Bobby's talking about, or why are we seeing those group of people excel being mixed with this group of people who they say are lesser, but we see these group of people being the most influential people in the entire world, where anything that this group of people does, the entire world tries to emulate. No matter what race, color, gender, creed they are, they want to emulate this group of people that went through this whole process in America. So if we were diluted, they some people would say we were diluted. Like how you dilute something, you make it weaker. It seems like we got stronger during the process, and we're like super people now. Like we think of shit, we do shit, jazz, hip hop, all the shit we have invented. There's over 50,000 patents from African Americans. Half the shit we use in our home is from African Americans during a certain period. So why we got diluted? Why does it seem like we rose even further up?
Somebody highly innovative, highly intelligent, highly energetic, someone who has a large accumulation of vitality that is connected to the amount of neuromelanin produced in the blood from the pineal gland. And the people that have the highest concentration of that neuromelanin in the blood are the so-called Black Americans.
That's a fact, because where's your African Michael Jackson? Where's your African Michael Jordan? Where's your African Tupac?
That's right.
All the greats come from this geographical landmass that we call America that was Atlantis. So as far as like our melanin count, our neuromelanin count, which is the brain and central nervous system melanin, we have an influx of melanocytes that taps into a certain intelligence that basically makes us pioneers, basically.
Yeah. That's right.
Brother Woods, I love these guys.
Huh? What you say, Rod?
I love these guys.
I appreciate it. Salute. Salute.
Get Rod. Close that question out, Rod. Go ahead, Rod.
Okay. So we got to remember that they are telling us stuff in plain sight.
Yeah, come on.
All right. They giving us the feedback off the reality.
Yes.
You got to go to the names of the epithets that they call America throughout what they call the lodge systems, the churches. America is known as the great melding pot.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The place where you come for bounty, the land of milk and honey.
Mm-hmm.
One drop of blood makes you one of us.
Okay.
So what we're looking at is evolution being controlled from external forces, from the agency of man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You ever hear Bobby talk about the great debauchery?
Yeah.
Okay. And the symbol for the medical field, the caduceus, is also the ancient symbol for DNA.
Mm-hmm.
The great debauchery was tampering with the human genome in the laboratory.
Okay.
This created a condition that was producing birth defects at an alarming rate. Enki gives them the remedy in the Sumerian tablets. The remedy to correct the errors in the genome is to give them the Anunnaki blood.
Mm.
So the royal families of all of the participating families of the Galactic Council sent down people with so-called celestial royal blood to correct the great debauchery. This is what put us in the Pleiadian light lock, the Van Allen belt.
Okay.
The people believe is the firmament.
Right.
But it's part of a conjure network for multiple celestial groups. It's backed up by a Arcturian radiation matrix. This is why they can't get past the Van Allen belt unless they find what's called space windows.
Space. Hold up, Rod. Say unless they find space. What?
Windows. They call them atmospheric windows.
Okay.
So it's like unlocking a combination lock to get on the other side of the Van Allen belt.
Okay.
Basically, like an energy field over the earth that's used as a soul trap, to keep us here.
Right.
That's what people call it, the soul trap. But it's part of the infinity loop when they crash fourth into third. And the infinity loop makes us be in the sacred 8 ball. Where we live in the upside down for a series of cycles, and then we live upright for a series of cycles. So the 8, the figure 8 on its side, but if you close it like this, it'll mirror itself. Right? That was when they collapsed it and required us to split consciousness. If your consciousness from your dream state is in control of the physical world as it is of your dream, you a problem to the system. Right? And everybody had to leave their celestial forms to come into a human form, use a human avatar, and we all got to work in teams to get out of the condition, flip out the eternity loop.
Right.
The infinity loop. We need the alignment of the Maherta at the same time that we're working on the liberation.
Okay.
Right? For the source energy to get the feedback that we working at curing the problem and we were successful. That's why none of the other elders from the past was able to match the Maherta on time.
Okay.
Get it on time this time. So that flips us out of the eternity loop. So then what's the next dimension after the 4th, the 5th? Right? And the 5th dimension is the age of Aquarius, where all things must be made known.
Okay. Let me so let me Rod, you had mentioned you mentioned we have mentioned the Anunnaki a couple of times during this interview, and you mentioned Inky. I want to ask you all about Thoth real quick. A real popular name in the internet streets these days. Thoth. B-Dell's been talking about the Tahuti energy, Melchizedek, all of that type of energy. Rod Hayes talks about it. RFG talks about this energy. If I if they say, like I've heard, they say Thoth in the Emerald Tablets, they said Thoth said he observed civilizations rise and fall. So let's say he observed a 25,000 year cycle. What I want to know is that, because we know the science of dimensions and time and things being different, do you think that it's possible for him to observe a 25,000 year cycle? Maybe it was 100 years where he was at. So when he's saying this and he's writing this, we think he lived 100,000 years, but where he was at when he observed this, him being conscious of his multidimensional nature, it was only 100 years where he was at. So what do you think about a lot of the history we get and a lot of the books we get passed down? The time is completely different from what we perceive. We're perceiving these historical books from a 2024 perspective, when in reality, we're not looking at it from a multidimensional nature and